over 50 years now, boys and girls and mums and dads have read and reread Kenneth Grahame's magical story of Mr. Toad and his friends Ratty, Mole and Badger. 4 animals who were sometimes so stupid and sometimes so wise that they were just like human beings. For those who've not yet had the pleasure of their company, and for the thousands who'd like to meet them again, this is the story of The Wind in the Willows. The mole had been working very hard all morning, spring cleaning his little home. First with brooms, then with dusters, then on ladders and steps and chairs, with a brush and a pail of whitewash, till he had dust in his throat and eyes, splashes of whitewash all over his black fur, and an aching back and weary arms. Spring was moving in the air above and in the earth all round him, penetrating even his dark and lowly little house with its spirit of divine discontent and longing. It was small wonder then that suddenly he flung down his brush on the floor, said, "Bother," and "Oh, blow," and also, "Hang spring cleaning," and bolted out of the house without even waiting to put on his coat. Something, somewhere was calling him. So he made for the little tunnel that was his equivalent of a front drive, and he scraped and scrabbled and scratched and scraped again, working busily with his little claws, till at last, pop! His snout had come out into the sunlight, and he found himself rolling in the warm grass of a great meadow. "Well, this is better than whitewashing," he said to himself, as soft, warm breezes caressed his brow. So jumping off all 4 legs at once, in the sheer delight of living, with the sounds of spring all round him, he pursued his way across the meadow. "Hold up," said an elderly rabbit at the gap in the hedge. "6pence for the privilege of passing by the private road." But he was bowled over in an instant by the impatient mole, who was so preoccupied with spring after a winter underground that he didn't even notice what had happened. It all seemed too good to be true. Hither and thither through the meadows he rambled busily, along the hedgerows where he found the birds building their nests in anticipation of the year that was unfolding around them. Flowers were budding, leaves thrusting, everything happy, progressive, and occupied. And instead of feeling guilty at the spring cleaning he'd left behind, he could only feel happy to see such other busyness around him. After all, the best part of a holiday is perhaps not so much to be resting yourself as to see all the other fellows working. He thought his happiness was complete as he meandered aimlessly along, when suddenly he found himself by the edge of a full-fed river. Never in his life had he seen a river before, this sleek, sinuous, full-bodied animal chasing and chuckling, gripping things with a gurgle, and leaving them with a laugh. And he sat on the grass and looked at the river, which chattered away to him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world, sent from the heart of the earth to be told at last to the insatiable sea. As he sat and looked, a dark hole in the bank opposite, just above the water's edge, caught his eye. And dreamily he thought, what a nice snug dwelling place that would make for an animal with simple wants. But as he gazed, something bright and small seemed to twinkle down in the heart of it, almost like a tiny star. But it could hardly be a star in such an unlikely situation, and it was too small for a glowworm. And as he looked, it winked at him, and so declared itself to be an eye. And around it, a brown little face with whiskers, a grave, round face with the same twinkle in its eye that had first attracted his notice. Small, neat ears and thick, silky hair. It was the water rat. The 2 animals stood and regarded each other cautiously. "Hello, Mole," said the water rat. "Hello, Rat," said the Mole. "Would you like to come over?" said the Rat presently. "Oh, it's all very well to talk," said the mole, being completely new to a river and riverside ways. But even as he watched, the rat had unfastened a rope and was hauling in a little boat, which the mole had not observed. Within seconds, the rat had crossed the river, and the mole's whole heart went out when the rat said, "Hop in, come and have a ride in a real boat." "Do you know," said the mole, "I've never been in a boat before in all my life." "What?" cried the rat, open-mouthed. "Never been in a... You never... Good heavens, what have you been doing then?" "Believe me, my young friend, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, half as much worth doing as simply messing about in boats." "Simply messing about in... Look ahead, rat!" cried the mole suddenly. But it was too late. The boat struck the bank full tilt. The dreamer, the joyous oarsman, lay on his back at the bottom of the boat, his heels in the air. "That's the charm of boats, really," said the rat, still lying on his back. "Nothing really seems to matter, whether you arrive at your destination or whether you arrive somewhere else, or whether you never get anywhere at all. You're always busy and you're never doing anything in particular. In fact, it's such fun that if you've nothing else on hand this morning, then supposing we drop down the river together and make a long day of it." The mole wiggled his toes from sheer happiness, spread his chest with a sigh of full contentment, and leaned back blissfully into the soft cushions. "What a day I'm having," he said. "Let's start at once." And all ready for a day on the river, the mole settled down to snooze. The next thing the mole heard was Rat saying, "How's this, then?" And in his hands was a fat wicker basket. "But what's inside it?" said the mole, full of curiosity. "There's cold chicken inside it," replied the rat briefly. "Cold tongue, cold ham, cold beef, pickled gherkins, salad, French rolls, crisp sandwiches, potted meat, ginger beer, lemonade, soda water—" "Oh, stop, stop, stop," cried the mole in ecstasies. "This is just too much." "Do you really think so?" inquired the rat seriously. "The other animals are always saying I never take enough on these excursions." And so the two new friends set off down the river. The water rat, like the good fellow he was, sculled steadily and forbore to disturb the mole, who was utterly intoxicated in this new life of sparkle and ripple and sounds and sunlight. After what seemed a very long time in this delightful state, the mole pulled himself together with an effort. "So you really live by the river? Why, what a jolly life that must be, Rat." "By it, and with it, and on it, and in it," said the rat. "It's brother and sister to me, and aunts and company, and food and drink, and naturally washing. It's my world, and I don't want any other. Lord, the times we've had together in all seasons. It's always got its fun and excitements. Sometimes, when the floods are on in February, my cellars are brimming with drink, and the brown water runs by my bedroom window. And sometimes, in the dry summer, I can potter about dry shod over most of the river bed and find fresh food and things that careless people have dropped out of boats." "What lies over there?" asked the mole, waving towards a background of woodland that darkly framed the water meadows on one side of the river. "That? Oh, that's just the wild wood," said the rat shortly. "We don't go there very much, we river bankers." "Aren't they very nice people in there?" said the mole, a trifle nervously. "Well," replied the rat, "let me see. The squirrels are all right, and the rabbits, some of them, but rabbits are a mixed lot. And then there's Badger, of course. He lives right in the heart of it, wouldn't live anywhere else. Dear old Badger. Nobody interferes with him. They wouldn't dare." "Well, who should interfere with him?" asked the mole. "Well, there are others," said the rat in a hesitating sort of way. "Weasels and stoats and foxes and so on. They're all right in a way. I'm very good friends with them, but really you can't trust them, and that's the fact." The mole dropped the subject, not wanting to dwell on possible trouble ahead, and asked, "And beyond the wild wood again, Rat, where it's blue and dim, what's over there?" Beyond the wild wood comes the wide world, said the rat. And that doesn't matter to you or me, so let's not mention it again. And anyway, here's our backwater at last. Now we can have some lunch. And so the rat brought the boat alongside the bank and helped the still awkward mole ashore. They were at the edge of what appeared to be a small landlocked lake. Green turf sloped down to the water's edge, whilst to one side a restless mill wheel turned in the weir, and the air was filled with the noise of foaming water against a gentle background murmur of slow-moving machinery. It was all very beautiful, and the mole could only say, "Oh my, oh my, oh my." But by now the rat had unpacked the luncheon basket and one by one had unwrapped mysterious packets, so that a veritable feast lay before them. "Pitch in, old fellow," said the rat. But the mole, having been up since a very early hour that morning, had already pitched in. Between them they ate and ate and ate. And when they felt they could eat no more, they simply lay where they were on the warm sunlit grass, and with the noises of spring all round them, they dozed off to sleep, little knowing just what adventures lay before them. In episode 2, the mole meets Otter, hears tell of the unpredictable Mr. Toad, and finds out just how cold the river can be.